Good morning to the Chancellor and his cabinet, family, friends, and our distinguished guests. We would like to formally welcome you to the Pride for our Women's History Month celebration featuring guest speaker April Ryan. She is the White House correspondent and also CNN analyst, and it is a pleasure to have you here with us today. I am Darian Tisdale, a junior at this university majoring in animal science and also a proud member of the UAPB Spirit Team. I was also recently crowned as Miss Heritage, which will allow me to proudly represent all the Arkansas HBCUs in the upcoming pageant in this summer Miss Arkansas pageant. It is a privilege to have here with us today April Ryan, as she will speak here with us today. And she will also be providing us with kind words and words of wisdom that will allow us to take it all in as we hear her today. Now we'll proceed with the program as follows. First, we will have Miss 89th with the greetings, and she is Angelica Perkins, followed by, we're gonna get there. We had a change in the program. So, followed with the opening remarks from Ms. Carla Martin, Vice Chancellor of Financial Administration. Thank you.
Greetings to our Chancellor and his esteemed cabinet, family, friends, and distinguished guests. I am Angelica Perkins. I gratefully serve as the 89th Miss University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. It is a pleasure to have you with us this morning as we take in the knowledge of April Ryan. It is so inspiring to have such an empowered woman with us at the university as we are celebrating Women's History Month. So today, may you revere this experience, receive this speech, and remember the knowledge. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Carla Martin, Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administration. On behalf of Dr. Lawrence B. Alexander, our Chancellor, it is an absolute pleasure to stand before you and officially welcome you to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff and our Women's History program. Each year, during the month of March, we pause to reflect on the many contributions women have made to society and celebrate women who are making history as we speak. So it is only fitting that today's speaker be one who is breaking down White House walls and educating the world on a daily basis, April Ryan. For 146 years, the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff has helped shape women and ultimately the world by preparing women who are CEOs, CIOs, COOs, CFOs, attorneys, doctors, researchers, educators, social workers, political activists, and bankers, all right here, where we pride ourselves in teaching not only what is in books, but also the meaning and purpose for one's life. And today, we continue those efforts by bringing Miss Ryan here for you. So prepare yourselves to be captivated, educated, and motivated by a woman who is fierce, fabulous, and fascinating. So, to our guest, thank you for being with us today. To our faculty, our staff, and our students, thank you for choosing to be a part of the Pride here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff.
We will now have the introduction of speaker by our dynamic Student Government Association President, Kimberly Boyd.
If you are silent about your pain, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it. Zora Neale Hurston. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. morning. Good morning. I am Kimberly Boyd, a senior excelling in business marketing, hailing from Memphis, Tennessee, and I humbly serve as the Student Government Association President for the 2018-2019 academic school year. And I have the honor of introducing a mother, author, award-winning trailblazer, CNN political analyst, Mrs. April Ryan. An alumna of Morgan State University, Mrs. Ryan began her journey in media as a jazz DJ. January of 1997 was the debut of an eager Black professional that brought a new level of exuberance to the American Urban Radio Network. A strong woman dedicated to amplifying the truths of our government and asking the questions that we all were thinking, but maybe didn't have the courage to ask. A seasoned veteran in the profession, having served in this capacity since the Clinton era, April Ryan is the personification of Black girl magic. Taking into account that she is the only Black female reporter covering urban issues from the White House, her ability to make things make sense have made her a beacon of light in the often murky shadows and perplexing terminology of the U.S. government. Through her platform as a syndicated CNN political analyst, her news blog, Fabric of America, and her award-winning books, The Presidency in Black and White, and At Mama's Knees, Mothers and Race in Black and White, she has not only been afforded unusual insights into the racial sensitivities and political struggles of our nation's last presidents, but also a spokesperson for a unique urban and minority perspective in news. Our guest is the epitome of grace and grit. We will now have a selection by our world-renowned Vesper Choir. Soon after, we will be educated and engaged by our distinguished speaker, Mrs. April Ryan. Thank you.
Easy goes on the wheel, way up in the middle of the air. Easy goes on the wheel, way in the middle of the air. Easy goes on the wheel, way up in the middle of the air. Easy goes on the wheel, way in the middle of the air. Easy goes on the wheel.
Give them another round of applause. Ezekiel saw the wheel way up in the middle of the air. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I love a good gospel choir. See, that's what an HBCU will do for you, right? Yes! Thank you, once again. That touched my heart. I haven't heard that song in so long. I think the last time I heard it was at Morgan State. No, I'm a proud graduate of an HBCU. Even though I'm down the road, round the corner, and up yonder, I'm still part of the HBCU family. And when one hurts, the whole hurts. So we gotta uplift our HBCUs right now. And I wanna, once again, as the choir leaves, give them a big round of applause. I am so pleased to be here at the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. It is my first time, and it is amazing. I love the courageousness that I'm hearing in these young people. Dee Brown, thank you so much for having me. Found a sister friend in Dean Brown. I thank all of you for coming, the Chancellor in his absence. But I'm just so pleased. And you may sit, I guess, if your conductor says so. I'm so pleased to be here, particularly. Don't you love it? Yes. Only at an HBCU, in unison, yes. We're gonna have a good time today. We're gonna have a good time reflecting on history. Because outside those doors, life is going on. Outside those doors, we got a whole bunch of stuff. We're going through growing pains, but in here, we're gonna have the class of April for a couple of minutes. And we're gonna keep it real, yes. And that's the only way I know how to do it. Thank you once again for having me. And I bring greetings from the American Urban Radio Networks, where I've served as White House correspondent, thank God, for the last 22 years. Not 2, but the last 22. I could do a church stomp right now, man. And I bring you greetings from the mighty CNN. And thank you, yes, thank you. There's no fake news there. I thank you so much for your support and for having me here today. But today, I want to talk about a topic that is near and dear to me. Women. Women. Can you say it, women? Women. Okay, it's okay. We're so great, there was a song written about it, W-O-M-A-N. I'm a woman. But in the midst of being a woman, sometimes we've been put in the back of the bus, take the back seat. We're not at the table sometimes when they talk about us in Washington on issues of health care. And they're talking about us and our bodies, right? But today we're going to exalt women. And one of the reasons why I like talking about women is because I happen to be one, if you didn't know. I have a mother who's gone to glory. I'm a mother of 2 daughters, who's one of them is looking for a college. All right now. All right now. Okay. I'm gonna tell her, hey, I just came there. Matter of fact, when I leave colleges, I always have a package to go back to her. So, backpacking a couple of or something. Okay, so anyway, put that out there. But I like talking about women, particularly right after Black History Month. I'm gonna keep it real with you about women today. I look at women as overcomers, as people who forge the path, as people who are empowered in the midst of oppression, suppression, and depression. Can't help but bring in my girl right now in my ear, who run the world girls, Beyonce. Who run the world girls? Who run this, not here at this college, we don't do that. But for real, who run the world girls? You may not see us on the front lines, but we are the neck that turns the head. Yes. I think about those women in history who took the charge silently. I think about those women who had a dis-ease in their spirit. Again, those women who had a dis-ease in their spirit to change the condition. Now, this year, 400 years, marks 400 years since we've been in this nation. 400 years ago this year, the first Africans were brought to this nation to be enslaved. And in the midst of that, the Africans weren't educated. It was an abomination to educate them until later on when they felt it was a Christian thing to do to teach us about the Bible, but it's a whole nother story. But there was one woman who I think about. Her efforts saved the fruit, which is us. I think about a woman my mother used to always tell me about, called a grandma. And they put another name to it, Moses. Who are we talking about? The woman who could have been on the $20 bill. I prayed that she's on the $20 bill. That woman who proclaimed she had no formal education. She was like a neglected weed, ignorant of liberty. She also talked about the mind. She talked about how she could have saved thousands more people if only they knew they were enslaved. This woman had no formal education, but she saved the fruit. We are the hope and dream of what she did. I'm talking about Harriet Tubman. Think about it. That's a bad sister. She didn't lose anyone on that train. No, it wasn't an actual train on the track, as some people may want to think. She took the property, the money-making property off these plantations and took them north to freedom. She didn't understand what was going on, but she felt a dis-ease in her spirit. This ain't right. She took money. Trust me, they were going after her. But she found a way. She made a way. That's what we do as women. There's another one I think about. We don't talk about her too much. We only talk about when we're trying to get our weave done, make sure our hair is straight. It looks cute. The madam, yes. What's her name? All right. You know, we think hair is a big thing now, but let me tell you something. Back then, she made the curls straight. She gave us moisture. Let me tell you something, dry hair don't work. It'll pop off in a minute, trust me. Going in that CNN chair every day, they putting the curling iron. I'm like, oh no, where's madam? I need the madam in my life. But I'm gonna tell you, she was our first millionaire. She was our first CEO, CFO, CIO. But you know what she did beyond having this money at a time when it was unheard of for a black person to have this enterprise? She felt a disease in her spirit as well. She took women who she employed and had these kitchen political sessions. See, these are the things they don't teach us. She had these sessions in the kitchens with these women about how to change things. She empowered women and she wanted to empower us. What she did, she formed a movement of her employees. They would talk about issues of anti-lynching. They would talk about issues of equality. They marched on, they worked together. You know, and I'm gonna tell you, we may have watched Black Klansmen, we may have watched Green Book and all that stuff this year. Wakanda Forever, I ain't joking. What's the other one? If Beale Street Could Talk. But we stand on the shoulders of these women who were talking about lynching and trying to come up with anti-lynching legislation. And guess what? In 2019, do we have it? No. No law in the books yet to stop lynching. But these women tried because they would see the strange fruit hanging from trees in the South. I think about the strength of women in the civil rights movement. See, these are women we might hear something about, but we don't know the truth. And these women I'm going to talk to you about, they were the backbone. Yeah, Dr. King marched, he strategized, he galvanized. But these women helped the march go on. Do you realize that today we're not marching like we should, like we used to? Because we use this thing, we think we're cute. Let me do this. Or, I'm gonna tell you about yourself. Hide behind an emoji. That's our way now to march. These young people are so spoiled right now, I don't know what to do. Thank you, Steve Jobs, though, but before we had the Twitter, the Facebook, the Gram, or the internets, what George Bush used to call it, President George Bush, the internet, so you know he wasn't on the computer. How did we talk to one another? Picked up the phone. Our young people, I remember that landline on the wall and the rotary. It would take you 2 minutes to dial somebody. Remember that? Thank you, Steve Jobs. I remember those phones. And actually, you still need those phones in case of emergency. How many of you got your emergency phone in your house? All right, the rest of you go get one of them old phones. One without electricity. But back then, they'd pick up those old phones. Sometimes the FBI would be listening on the phone. All right, now. Or they'd be in church talking. See, now, if you march, you need money, right? Certain organizations have money to continue persistently and consistently to march. And then there are those that are like, okay, we're gonna do it today because we only have money to get the bus for the day. And I got money to do the signs, you know, we work it out. But back then, only 4% of black churches supported Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Only 4% of black churches supported Dr. Martin Luther King. So the money wasn't necessarily pouring in. You know, you ask me, how do you know all this? Because I've sat and listened in person to Reverend Jesse Jefferson, Ambassador Andrew Young, the great Harry Belafonte. If you don't know who he is, Google him. Watch the movie Carmen. You will have a whole new perspective. He's fine. Even in his 90s. You know, he used to tell me, and Congressman John R. Lewis. How did they make it so that we now in this day can enjoy rights? Now, I want to put a pin in this for a minute, but I want you to think about this. 400 years in this nation, this year. 400 years in this nation, this year, for those who are descendants of slaves in this country. But only in the last 50 or so years has Black America been franchised in this nation. You don't believe me? Let me tell you how. Well, what year was it when Brown v. Board came out? Say it. All right then. What year was it when we got the Civil Rights Act? Okay, y'all, okay. We in the 60s, early to mid 60s. And then we got the Voting Rights Act, the year after the Civil Rights Act. I am celebrating my 52nd year of life this year. Oh, thank you. Think about it. We have really, we are spoiled. My parents and some of those who are here with wisdom felt the sting of oppression. But how did we get over those women? How did they do it without the financial backing? It was women. When Dr. King said, "I'm going down south," it was these mothers that opened up their homes and gave Harry Belafonte a pallet to sleep on next to John Lewis in that room. How did they eat? Those mamas went in their field and opened up the back door, said, "Let's go get some maters and tomatoes." That's how they did it. Women. And I'm going to tell you that time, and one of the reasons why Dr. King only had a small number of black churches support the effort, it's not because people didn't like him, it was because people were afraid. Why rock the boat? We're okay. People were afraid. People being lynched, couldn't get jobs. They could do anything and everything they wanted to us and say, "Oh, wasn't me. Wasn't me." But here's the real issue. It took a community of people to see. Rosa sat down on the bus, but it took people to come together. When they did the strikes for the buses, how did the community come together? Those mothers said, "Okay, I'm gonna feed you, I'm gonna do this. We don't have much." Women are the backbone of the movement, are the backbone of any cause. Women, when we lead the home, the mindset goes out into the community. So at that time, people were afraid. I have a story in one of my books that I share all the time. And it's the strength of a woman, how we birth a nation, how we change the mindset of people. There's a story about a young John R. Lewis when he was growing up in Troy, Alabama. His mother, he loved her so much. She was a sharecropper, the family owned about 100 acres of land. For a black family at that time, that was huge. Because back then they would steal your land, they would take it in any kind of way, any shape or form. So Congressman Lewis, when he was a young John R. Lewis trying to go through school, he had a dis-ease in his spirit, but he loved his mama so much. He loved his mama so much that he didn't want to go against her wishes, but he would always say, "Mama, why is it this way?" She said, "Boy, be quiet, you're being nosy. Stay in your place." But he had a dis-ease in his spirit, but he didn't want to go against his mama. So, Congressman Lewis, then young John Lewis, he and his brothers and sisters wanted to learn. They wanted an education. They went to the local library, they were told they couldn't get a book. Think of that. But he said, "I'm gonna keep on going." Young John Lewis said, "Mama, I don't like this, but what's gonna..." "Mind your business, stay in your place." That's what she kept telling him because she was scared. But he said to me, he said, "April, I have faith because my mother had faith." His mother would say, "I'd never see the righteous forsaken or a seed begging bread," but he had faith, even though she didn't want him to worry about or pay attention to the separateness of society. John R. Lewis said, "Okay, Wasn't enough about the library book. He said, I still feel this disease. He decides to go off and be the first black student of Troy State. That's when he pulled in Dr. King. And Dr. King called him the boy from Troy. His mother was nervous. His mother was upset because Dr. King said, look, if you do this, your house would be bombed, you would lose your land. Now for black folks back then, that's a lot. So that's kind of why people were like, let them do what they do over there, we're gonna be good over here. So he said, okay, it's a big price to lose. But against his mother's wishes, even though he didn't go to Troy State, he decided to march with Dr. King. His mother did not like it, but she kept praying. She kept praying. And he said, if my mother and father can be who they are and have all of this, that same God that's saving them is the same God that's going to save me through this march. That was because of his mother's prayers. See how we lead? His mama. Now, she wasn't with all this marching. She wasn't with it because she said, oh, she was scared. Think about it back then. In Alabama, she's praying for her son. You got it. You from Alabama? All right, so you know. So she kept praying. They got the Civil Rights Act. She was breathing, so okay, this is it. Now he's in sneak, he's a little rabble rouser. He said, I'm gonna get this done because of this ease in his spirit from being in the South. They got the Civil Rights Act, and they dared to go further. We saw his head beaten with a billy club. We saw the sting of the hose. We saw the tearing of the flesh from the bite of the dog. But he kept marching on his mother's faith. This is how women change the world, on her faith. She was against it. She was against the marching. She was against it. She wanted her baby to be okay. But guess what? At the end of the day, when they received the Voting Rights Act that went to law, she said, all right, I'm with you now. Mrs. Lewis even decided herself, all right, John, I'm with you. Let's go out and register some people to vote. She, in her dis-ease of him marching, created Congressman John R. Lewis. We shape the world. We shape thoughts, we shape ideas. And I'm gonna fast forward because they want me to talk for a few minutes and take some questions. And I'm gonna fast forward to the boldness of who we are in the midst of adversity. We have to know who we are and what we need and what we want. When we are placed in a position that we have to ask for something. We are still a community with the highest numbers of negatives in almost every category. I'm gonna say it again. We are still a community with the highest numbers of negatives in almost every category. Sometimes we're not at the table when they're talking about us. Most times we're not at the table, especially now when they're talking about us. But I'm gonna give you this. In 1972, it was a bold woman from New York, Brooklyn, matter of fact. She ran for president. First black woman to run for president. She said, if you don't have a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. Her name is Shirley Chisholm.
Yes.
You hear so many women stand on the shoulders of Shirley Chisholm. AOC, the new Congresswoman, Michelle Obama, Maxine Waters. You got a lot of people out here who are building off the legacy of women, and you don't even know it. So when Beyonce sings, Who Runs the World, Girls, I'm like, hey, who run this? Yeah, I'm with it. I am so with it. But what I will tell you is, never discount the power of a woman. We will surprise you every time. See, men, I love you. I love my men. Do I love my men? But we got something in us that you just could never conceive or perceive or comprehend. We can take the emotion out of it and see it for what it is and go fight for you when you are down. We can take the blows when you're ready to fight. And we can still keep going and go home and make dinner for the kids and do the homework and come back the next day. But there's some strength in the overcoming, not just in women. I'm not lying, that's right. He said she ain't lying either. You know what your mom has been doing for you, right? All right. But there's something that has come to us from generation to generation to generation. Think about my mother. People always ask me, how do you stand? How do I stand in the midst of the storm? And trust me, it's a storm. If you don't believe me, the FBI has been to my home, and that's all I'm going to say. But how do I stand? And why do I stand? Because I had a woman in my life who I miss terribly. She's been gone for 12 years. She was my strength. I call her name, Vivian Ryan. She spoke to me from childhood on, and she still speaks to me today. I lost her when I was turning 40, pregnant with my last child. I loved her so. She told me, I told her a long time ago, I said, Mommy, I would never be able to make it if anything happens. She said, no, sweetie, you never let anyone stop you. And as a child, you know, when you go to school, people used to always act silly. You know, when you get the little Madam C.J. Walker hair done, they'd be like, I'm like, Mommy, so-and-so said. She said, April, it's not what they call you, but what you answer to. So when you give me these accolades, it's not about me. It's from that woman and that daddy that are both in heaven. I pray together. That raised me. But they also taught me that it's not about me. That I stand on the shoulders of greatness. I stand on the shoulders of the strongest that survived the Middle Passage. I stand on the shoulders of a woman who took us from south to north to try to save the free. I stand on the shoulders of that woman who sat on that bus. I used to be in the 6th row at the White House in the briefing room. Now I'm in the 3rd because Rosa Parks worked for me too. I stand on the shoulders of all those who fought to include women. I do not discount any story. Everyone and everything has a story. When you tell your story, make sure you tell the story of women. Aspire to inspire. Thank you. I believe we're doing a Q&A now, I believe. Okay, we've got, yes, oh, people are already starting to come to, okay, come on.
Good morning, Ms. Ryan.
You better sing.
My name is Kelley Washington. I'm a rising senior here. I was raised by a really strong black woman, and she got me to this university. And so I want to ask, on behalf of men, especially black men, how can we better support women so that you can all continue to support us and raise us up?
Best support. One, it starts with the mind, understanding. And then, you know what? When you see a sister in the grocery store, how can I help you? When you see that sister in the church, open the car door. You can go mow the lawn for somebody. You can go tutor a child, especially a single mother who's in need. Because you are exemplifying excellence. The struggle is real. My mother used to tell me, and they leave as I talk about that, but and my mother used to tell me that a lot of it falls on women, and I didn't realize we run the household. As the man may bring it in, he may be our covering, but we run it. And I'm going to tell you, you can change a lot by just being the example of being there for women. It doesn't mean you're weak. Your strength comes out of service. Power means service. And that's not just for you. That's for elected officials. It's about serving. Trust me, you will find a good woman if you do that. I'm telling you.
Thank you. I'm Kaden Strong. I'm a freshman here at the university. And thank you, first of all. And also, what resonated with me was the fact how you were talking about black women. And I agree that they're powerful and delicate, and the black women are truly the epitome of divinity.
I love
you.
Yes.
But black women are also important as well. So I'm asking you, how can black men get back in touch with our roots and walk like kings and talk like kings?
How can you get in touch with your roots to walk like kings and talk like kings? Walk boldly. Because I'm going to tell you something. I'm the crazy person who believes in what the founding fathers said. We, the people who are still forming a more perfect union. I'm part of that, we the people. If you believe that, you should walk boldly as well. I'm also of the mind that I'm the head and not the tail. Okay, biblical. You don't tell me something and take it back. So how do we become kings and queens? One, know your history. A lot of these books are not going to teach us the history. You can learn from so many. How many of you here who have the wisdom, who are here for wisdom of age, who march with, how many here march with Dr. King? All right, you can learn here. We have to learn to tell our stories. And one thing that bothers me in our community, we don't know who we are, whence we come from. And you know, my kids, I'm gonna tell you something, my kids, they're blowing my mind away right now, telling me about ours, because I don't think I know everything, but they're telling me something. How did you know? My oldest child sings, what's that song? It's a Nina Simone. I'm like, oh my gosh. And she gets 16 years old. She's telling me this stuff. And what's that song? What'd you say? Young, Gifted, and Black. But not just that. And then she's into Sam Cooke now. I'm like, where did you come from? And learning our history and who we are. That is important. You have a wealth of knowledge here. We need to learn the untold story about HBCUs. You know, it is not racist. These institutions are not racist. If we understand the true reason why HBCUs were formed, we would understand. When we talk about the 5,000 Democratic presidential hopefuls, talking about, there's about 5,000 now. I know, but it's 12. And then Joe Biden is thinking about coming. Uncle Joe's coming in. So anyway, if we learn how to serve, if we learn our history, and then they're talking about issues of reparations, some of us don't even know our own history about slavery and reparations. And people think 40 acres and a mule is just a Spike Lee saying. Thank you. I think if we want to be kings and queens, we got to own it. And people cannot tell us to shut up about our history. We had atrocities too. We have to walk in who we are and be bold. We are part of we the people. And we cannot, if we know we're right, you can't back down. But it's how we go about it. So you are my young king right now. You are king, honey. You got your crown and you don't know it. You are walking. Know who you are. Know from whence you come. Study, show thyself approved. Talk to some history. We got history in here. Thank you. Thank you. Can you move up to the side and talk to this young man because he's yearning? I want you, yes. Thank you. I believe that we need to learn who we are. There's so much misinformation about us, and then you got people in the highest spaces and places coming up with wrong information. You got to say, well, wait a minute. And I think we need to know what we're doing and know what we're saying and know who we are. Yes.
Hi, Ms. Ryan. My name is Jaleesa Brown. I am currently a graduating senior at the university, majoring in English non-teaching. And my question for you is a slight two-parter. The first one is, as a black woman who wants to work in politics and government work, how do you deal with people that kind of put you on the back burner because you're black and you're a woman? And the second part is, as a woman in life who has a career, how do you take your time in steps? Because, you know, sometimes people want women to be mothers soon, they want them to have the husband, they want them to have this. How did you take your time to get what you want?
That's a whole nother, okay, so, all right, I am a mother, I'm a divorced mother of 2 young women. I live in a whole nother city, I'm 50 miles away, really it's a 2-hour commute each way. I paid my mother's older sister to come in and take care of my children when I'm here with you because she believes in this. And my children, I'm excited. Let me tell you something, I could be in a press conference and my daughter will text me, Mommy, where's my shirt? And I'm like, I'm in the press conference, your shirt is on the bed, now leave me alone, bye. No, but I mean, I'm accessible to them always, at all times. I'm always there for them. I have no life. Really, I do. I don't have a life. I go home, go to work. This politics and journalism, it's no gray area. You either love it or you hate it. In order to be in it, you have to know a lot about a lot in a moment's notice. If there's something that happens, I gotta be on it. I've got to talk to Congressperson so-and-so or talk to White House person so-and-so who may lie to me about it or spin it, and I gotta find out what's the truth in a short span of time. I'll probably have less than 10 minutes, you know? Just the other week, and I got people were all upset on Twitter, remember when Cohen testified before my homeboy, Congressman Elijah Cummings? Everybody's getting the script that he was. I was like, well, where's my script? So I reached out to you, and you're supposed to know everybody. I reached out to Cohen's people. We aren't gonna give you a script, but I tell you what, there's a check that he's going to announce, and blah, blah, blah. I broke that news. And people are like, how did she get it? Because I'm April Ryan, I put in the work. Put some respect on that check. So, but you know what? I figure out how to balance. And then oh my God, then CNN. I could be on 10 o'clock at night, I could be on early, but it's like, we want you on, I'm like, oh. So you have to at some point you have to make life work for you. And I'm writing 3 books, wrote 3 books, working on a 4th. 3 books in 5 years. But my children love me and I love them. And that's all that matters, because at the end of the day, that can go away. My family is what matters. I enjoy what I do, but my family is what matters. If you prioritize, now how do you become, you gotta give up a lot at the beginning. Because you're starting out. You can have a friend, you can get married, you can have children, but it's gonna be hard. I didn't have my first child till 35. My second child, you say, ooh. My second child till 40. And now I'm trying to be healthy so I can see them and see my grandchildren. So I'm an older parent. My friends have grandchildren. And I mean, I go places with them, they're like, oh, those are your grandchildren? I said, no, those are my babies. You know, those are my children. But that's just, it wasn't that I put things off. It just didn't happen. I believe God gives us what we need, when we need, and how we need it. So my walk is different than the other person's walk, and their walk is different than mine, but I love my walk. And I love where, I mean, there have been sometimes, I'm divorced. No one wants to divorce, but I'm good. I'm good. And you know, I date here and there, but nobody, it's hard for people to understand. I have this young man I just met the other day, and he's like, oh, you're busy. I'm like, you just figuring that out? I mean, but you make time and put priority on what's important. Right now in your career, what I would say, if that's what you really want, I would work. I would work. I'm not saying don't date, but I would work. You have to establish yourself. If that's what you really want. Establish yourself. I hope I answered your questions. I got real personal now.
Hello, my name is Kendrick.
Kennedy Marks. I'm a junior here at the university, and I am a multimedia communications major. So I haven't truly found out what I want to do in that niche, but I do.
And what year are you?
I'm a junior.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know I need to get internships and all that kind of stuff. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, so
Oh, you got a plethora of things in Atlanta. You go home
that's
during the
what I
summer.
need.
Yeah, you go home during the summer, you're straight, but you gotta find it for yourself.
Right.
This business, people are not gonna help. You got to knock on the door. It's so many people out there banging on the door. You gotta show how hungry you are.
Right.
Okay? I'm not talking about sleeping with people. I'm talking about going out there and knocking the door down, doing the work. No, I mean, seriously, no. I mean, let me say this. It's not a joke. I mean, there are people who find their way up the wrong way. And I'm trying to let you know, I didn't do that. I worked the hard way. And I'm here at 52 years old. I've been doing this for 22 years. Half the people didn't know that I was there until Donald Trump did what he did to me. But a lot of people knew I was there. But you know what? What is success? When preparation and opportunity, I was always prepared. And when people say, oh, let's see what she's like, they're like, oh my God, you have to be prepared when the opportunity comes. So you go out there and put what if all the spotlight, and I'm like, no. It's too much riding on this, because we don't have a lot of us in this business. So sister, you go out there, once you leave here today, I want you to get on the internets and find places in Atlanta. Matter of fact, there's a young lady in Washington, D.C., if you're willing to CBS, she's looking for more African Americans. Yeah. So she's looking for internships. But she make you look bad. So, but we have, it's not that, but you don't know what you want to do yet.
I want to get into politics, but I've never ever really.
We need more blacks in politics, more political reporters. We don't have many of us.
Right.
When you see CBS News talking about their campaign team and it's all white on Twitter and then the NAACP's going in, it's a problem. Yeah, but let me tell you so I started out in high school. I didn't know what I wanted. I just wanted to be in it. Freshman year, I wound up being a DJ. I was like, okay. Sade, is it a crime? WEAA-FM. April Ryan Smith. In between classes on weekends. I got tired of that. But I went back to and I wanted to be in it, and I didn't realize I started producing. I said, wait a minute, this feels good. I started producing a news program. I said, I love news. I went back to what my family used to do. At night, my father and my mother would have the TV blasting with That's the Way It Was. Walter Cronkite, you don't know him, Google him. That's when news, you didn't know anything political side anybody was on. That's when it was fact. And my mother and father, I went back to that. What I knew, because they used to, and this is the crazy thing, my father would be sitting, watching after he come home from work, sitting, watching TV. My mother be in the kitchen cooking. We had TV blasting. That's the way it was with Walter Cronkite. And I said, Daddy, why are you always watching the news? Why? Because I want to know when the world comes to an end. You don't tell a 6-year-old child that. That should have sent me in the opposite direction. But because of my family's craving for news and information about what concerns us, I went back into that. Everything that was in my household is true to me today. That's crazy. So you need somebody, you need to find a mentor. You need to go looking, and you need to start searching. You're a junior. You need to work, but I'm gonna tell you something. When I started out in school, I started out as a freshman on the air. Sophomore year, I was working at WEPB, still spinning records. James Brown used to own that radio station in Baltimore, but he didn't own it when I was there. It was the late Dorothy Brunson, but it used to be James Brown started that station called WEPB. But I moved and moved. You need to be doing stuff now to build your career. And this is going to be a test whether you like it or not. Don't expect a lot of money, because a lot of people, I graduated from, my first job was maybe like $17,000. But I stayed at home with mommy and daddy too. So you got to figure that out. And you may have to supplement your income and build and figure out if it's what you want. But when I first started, the majority of my classmates, it was a lot of us. It was about 100, 150. Graduation class 89. Out of that number, maybe 4 or 5 of us are in the business. And my class and this other person, he was in business school, but he's like jumped off. I'm gonna tell you who some of my classmates were. In communications, in my communications class at Morgan State, one of my friends is now at the Secret Service. She's a PR person at Secret Service. Another one is in investment banking. Then we have one of my friends, another girlfriend, she was an Olympic gold medalist, Rochelle Stevens. She went to Barcelona, ran track. None of them in the business, but this one is in the business. You may see him. Kevin Frazier from Entertainment Tonight, he was sitting right behind me in class. And that is so funny. We were like, oh my God, it's crazy. So he was one of my classmates. Then there's another guy, Kevin Lyles, who used to be head of Def Jam. He was one of my classmates. Then there's this other guy who makes movies and these plays. David E. Talbot, have you heard of him? Yes, that was one of my classmates. So I had an interesting class. So yeah, so sisters, start working now, okay? I hope I answered your question. I hope this is informative to you guys. I love coming to speak to colleges because I see me. I remember when I came to Morgan, you know what was playing? Dougie Fresh, the show. He was singing before he became a dance move. So, good morning. Good morning. You gonna sing to me? She's like, good morning.
My name is Marquisha Avery.
What's your name?
Marquisha.
Hi, Marquisha.
How you doing?
How you doing? My name is not Wendy Williams.
I am currently majoring in secondary social studies education. I'm a sophomore here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and my question to you is, with society being driven by media, and with all the injustice things that are going on today, what advice would you give the millennials, the black women and the black men today to continue to prosper and to continue to be strong? Like, what advice would you give us to continue to uphold the legacies that you have taught us today?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that. I love my millennials, but I'm so concerned about my millennials. I love you guys so much. I need you guys to hear me and hear me good. Hear me, please. First of all, we're at a time when it should never be when politics is entertainment now. It's terrible. That White House, everything comes to the White House from War and Peace and everything in between. It affects you. Life and death are written and spoken in that place. But now it's viewed as entertainment. That's one thing. Second thing that's really pressing to me when it comes to history and today, we are not that far removed from the marches. You may think we are, but we're not. And what bothers me is that my millennials are angry, and they've got a right to be angry, but I want them to use their anger in the right way. March, do something, instead of protesting by withholding your vote. I don't like that. It's terrible. Do you guys know the name of Kwesi Mfume?
Yeah.
Kwesi Mfume was a former Maryland congressman, the former head of the NAACP. He was my first radio program director at Morgan State University. He was a city councilman in Baltimore. You would not have heard his name if he wouldn't have won that city council seat. And I'm gonna tell you how many votes he won by. 3. Each vote counts. I mean, I can't explain to you the depth of what Bloody Sunday was. And then we got the nerve to, I'm gonna hold my vote back. I don't care who you vote for. I really don't care. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. I don't care. I just want you to vote. Too many people died, were hung. I mean, look, if you haven't gone, if you ever get a chance to go to the museum in Washington, D.C., you gotta go. 1, to see Emmett Till. Well, his body's not there, but the pictures of the coffin is there. 2, when you first go in, you see the slave ship, piece of the slave ship, you see the little shackles for the babies. Now that's what got me. And they were talking about they had some counselors there, some bereavement counselors there, and they would help me. I'm like, I was on the floor, nobody was there for me. I mean, I was on the floor, oh my God. I couldn't, it was too much. We have been through a lot and still going through. And still going through. And we're talking about not voting. And then, hold on. I want to hold back the vote. And then Stacey Abrams could have been governor of Georgia. They fought, clap. Don't be scared. Stacey Abrams and Andrew Gillum. We're talking about voting rights back then in the 60s. We need voting rights today. We are voting for the second time. We had this past presidential election, the midterms, without the full enforcement of the Voting Rights Act. Now let me tell you something, what the Voting Rights Act was supposed to do, and what it did. For certain southern states who would make black people go to the polls, you'd have to count bubble gum or give some kind of test to be able to vote. No. And now, midterm election, they're sending me video from Georgia where there are thousands of people showing up at a polling place, and there's only one polling machine? No. We cannot. I don't care. And people talk, I don't wanna, do it because it's jury duty. Well, you know what? You're not gonna tell me what I can't do in 2019. I know. Too many people died, were beaten for the right for me to say you can or cannot represent me. I want you guys to keep protesting, but don't withhold your vote. That's the only thing. I love my millennials. Y'all are smart. You guys are our promise. You guys are our future. You are everything that the slaves dreamed of and hoped for. Don't withhold your vote. Go out there and show them what it's like from UAPB. Thank you. Oh, he's back. He's back. Come on, King.
To piggyback on the generational aspect, our generation right here, we're very militant. So if we see wrongdoing or encounter wrongdoing, we fight back or talk back. Whichever is necessary, that's what we do. So when we encounter that wrongdoing towards us, would you say it would be more, would you say that it's more right to fight back with our fists and our words, or to fight back with peaceful protests, how they did in civil rights?
I'm gonna say this to you, ain't nothing wrong with being militant, but it's how you do it. It's what you do. All right, and this is something our young people forget, and I was so angry when we had, during the Obama years, and we were seeing Ferguson, we were seeing North Charleston, we were seeing Baltimore, we were seeing New York, Eric Garner. We still don't have justice for Eric Garner. What upset me so was that they were like, the young people were like, they were marching, and I loved it because I said, they're showing that we the people, we're gonna make a change, because the only way things happen, we're a very reactionary society. If something happens, the reaction happens, and if it's fierce enough, they pay attention. But here's my problem. We had Malcolm, he was militant, by any means necessary. And what's sad is I was on the set of CNN the other day and we were talking, somebody said, by any means necessary. I said, you need to qualify that by saying a quote from Malcolm X. I said, oh, I didn't know Malcolm X said. I said, hold on, let me show you. Pulled up the video. I said, he's known for that. I said, this was pre-Mecca Malcolm. See, sometimes, and that's what I'm saying, when you go into these spaces and places, you have got to know what you know to educate. It's not just talking. You have to come and educate people, especially people who don't look like us. Because people forget that history and don't want to acknowledge it. You got to put it on the table. So, I'm not saying I agree with what he did or what he didn't do. You had people who marched. Let me tell you something. The glory. march through Ferguson with our hands up. That's a powerful sign. But the way people pay attention is through peace. The way people pay attention, this peaceful man died so violently. Dr. King. That put a big punctuation and exclamation point on the ills of the nation. Right now, what would it look like when Sarah calls me a name? I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Not only am I out of there, you're not gonna get questions that pertain to you. You gotta be strategic in getting what you need and want. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Also, in 2019, we see more fires being led as a passion to rise up above our oppressors. So a lot of us don't know how to fight back or how to fight back peacefully, per se. So how can you give us advice in order to do that?
How do you fight back? You start by voting, getting in the system, getting involved. Go to the council meetings. Be part of the party that you support. Be a part of the solution, not the problem. If there's something going on in your community and you don't like it, you go there and you talk. You bring fact to the table. You're peaceful at the table. You know, you can make change. You are not just an empty vessel that just sits there and takes it. Like I said, we the people. We need to get you connected. You are what we need. You want to work. You want to serve. And if there's someone who is a community leader in this community, please talk to this young man. Who's a community leader here? Who's in like a party, has a party affiliation who can help? Come on now. Okay, is there a teacher here who can get this young man? Yes, sir. And you're gonna be slow to raise your hand. You should be the first one to say, I want you to talk to both of these people. Thank you. I want you to talk to both of them. He's got a heart to serve. He's got a heart to change. You get him while he wants to do this because he's lost when you don't help. Do you understand what I'm saying? Thank you. What is your name?
Kanan Charlo. Kanan Charlo.
Kanan?
Yes, ma'am.
Kanan, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. Kanan is our king, one of our new kings. All of us are kings and queens here, but I love this.
Ms. Ryan, our final question for today.
Our final question. This has been so much fun, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. Is it still morning?
My name is Allison Austin. I'm a sound recording technology major, and my main question is, how do you maintain poised professionalism while being one of the few black women in the newsroom and as a CNN analyst?
Let me say this, like I said, this whole day, this whole conversation has been about, it's bigger than me. I stand on the shoulders of so many, and trust me, I'm very opinionated. My friends like, oh, I'm waiting for that April to come out, that college April. I'm like, I'm slower now, I'm 51. No, but there's too much at stake. It's not about me. For instance, when the president was mad about Colin Kaepernick and not having the Eagles come, Sarah, does the president realize what taking the knee is about? It was like the world stopped. You don't see them doing that anymore, talking about it anymore. Questions bring forth truth. There's an accountability piece. It changes policy and initiatives as well. It's not about me. When you see the game that they're playing, you understand. I'm a black woman perceived not to be someone who, again, a black woman perceived to be someone who's not their base. And it's easy to make a target. And plus, I'm from a smaller network. I work for American Urban Radio Networks in that room. And they thought they could pluck me off. Now they're saying, oh, I didn't know she was as formidable. But see, I'm gonna tell you something. Some of that is from being from Baltimore. Some of that is being from an HBCU background. And some of that also is being at Thanksgiving and Christmas with mean cousins that would pick on you too. You know those mean cousins. You know, you know how to take it and move on because it's not about me. It's like whatever. People see what's going on. If I go back at her like, you not this, you not that, we lose. We lose, not April loses. We lose. So you gotta look at the bigger picture and see what it is. You gotta take the emotion out of it. Sometimes we don't know how to take the emotion out of it. Take the emotion out of it, put it down, say, what is this? And look at it. Whatever that it is. And look at it realistically, not with emotion. Say, okay, I see. There was a threat to take my badge away. Did they do it? Nope. And they're not. Because I guarantee you, a lot of America will be marching on Washington about it. Because there's a big April army out there that I didn't know that was out there until all this was happening. Why? Because I ask real questions that need real answers. And I'm not up there with an agenda. I'm there because I'm doing my job. Freedom of information, freedom of the press. When they suppress us, they suppress you. You're not getting there. It's not about us, it's about you. So I hope I answered your question.
Now ending the program, we'll have closing remarks from Ms. Kara Brown, Dean of Student Activities.
Thank you so much for attending our Women's History Month celebration. Our Chancellor has arrived and will provide some of our remarks before we conclude the program. After you hear the voice of our Chancellor, please proceed as follows to the lobby for the book signing. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Is it still morning? Was this or was this not an awesome occasion? This was an awesome and historic occasion for us and a historic day in the life of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. It is a day in which I take great delight because I love it when we have a journalist, a true journalist in the house, and a journalist of national and now international esteem. We have had, I tell you, I was sitting out there listening to part of it, and I just said at some point, just go ahead and preach. Ms. April Ryan certainly did an excellent job of inspiring, of empowering, and of encouraging women and men who dare to listen or care to listen. I am so grateful to her for taking time away from the White House beat on this day to share with us here at our university. And I don't know if she knows, but I have a warm spot in my heart for journalists because I was on the battlefield some many, many years ago. That's how I got my start. I was in newspapers, and I was certainly active in NABJ, and I certainly enjoyed the relationships that we have with all of the brethren and sistering across our great country. But Ms. April Ryan has certainly raised the profile of journalism in our society today. And if you don't get a chance, young people, tune in to CNN, right? How many of y'all watch CNN at night? Okay, all right. All right, that wasn't everybody, Ms. Ryan. But after today, we're gonna tune in to CNN because we're gonna be informed. We're gonna be informed because it gives news and analysis of the news. And that's how we're gonna be informed when we go to vote, right? Because you heard her talk about freedom of information. That's the whole point of freedom of information. So that you and me and everybody else can get the information that we need to make the choices that we have to make. So she has raised the profile for journalism. She has raised the profile for women. She is raising the profile for African Americans in this country. So we are grateful to her for coming here today. Thank you. And we have a little gift for you, a little token of our appreciation that we'd like to present to you today. I didn't mention it, but I wanted to. I wasn't here at the beginning of the program to give remarks. I was down in Little Rock at the legislature. It's that time of the year. Our legislature is meeting, and I was called away to the legislature. Last week, I was called in to play defense, because we got to play defense, y'all. There are people who want to take from portions of higher ed. Today, I was there to play offense, to ask for some things. And remember, yeah, Ms. Ryan was saying when it's time to ask for something, know what to ask for. And we have some legislators and some of our key legislators asking on our behalf, who are women, right? Our own senator and representative are women leaders. Representative Flowers, Senator Flowers, and Senator Chesterfield was the one that sponsored the bill. Those are people, and Senator Elliott, people in the Senate and House acting on our behalf, and we appreciate that. Thanks as well to Vice Chancellor Martin, who filled in for me on those greetings on the program. I thank you, Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administration, women leaders. I want y'all to recognize that. Recognize that. A Vice Chancellor is an extension of the Chancellor. That's why they call them Vice Chancellors. They're an extension of the Chancellor. That's right. I know y'all didn't think about it that way. You know when everybody come bring everything down to the Chancellor, well, we need the Chancellor. There's a lot of things, the extension of the Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor is there to handle. So thank you, Vice Chancellor Martin, for handling it today on our behalf. And I thought I saw our national president here, national alumni president, is she here? Yeah, she was here earlier, she's gone. Ms. Valois Bowers. And thank you to all our students, our faculty, our staff, our alumni, and our community leaders, any community political leaders here. Yeah, there's Delvin. Any others? Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming and participating with us. Let's give all our community leaders a round of applause. Brother Delton Wright back there. And thanks to all of our Vesper Choir, who, yes indeed, under the direction of Mr. Liddell. And thanks to our Jazz Ensemble, under the direction of Mr. Liddell, for their participation on our program, and thanks to our court, yes, and our royal court, Ms. UAPB, and all, thank you, and all of the program participants, our leader, our student body president, Ms. Kimberly, and all of you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate it.